Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much. Very nice to see you. Don't any of you guys have work to go to? like Australia is a chilled out place. What is it? Friday, 3 o'clock. The weekend starts early here, huh? Happy to be here. It's really my honor. Feel very much at home here in Australia. Actually, I heard so much about Australia over the years. Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj would always come to London, and we were scared that Australia was going to kidnap him. Because we had an agreement that he would be in the manor for 6 weeks every year. And then we saw he was going more to Australia, so we had an eye on you guys. But yeah, he would always speak very lovingly about the devotees here, and he was right. They were very sweet. So happy to be here. So yeah, this evening, not this evening, I'm still in UK time zone. This afternoon we have a little bit of time. I didn't have anything specific, so we can be a little bit spontaneous. If you have some questions or you have some topic, then we can discuss. I can also ask you questions. Let's see where we go. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurapilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Namayam Dadati Swapadhantakam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudeva Cha Krishna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Guru Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome to all of you. As Maharaj said, we don't have any other work to do. We're just waiting for Maharaj for many years. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for agreeing to come here. And Maharaj doesn't need introduction. Your presence itself shows everyone knows Maharaj, but just for my purification purpose. So Maharaj took birth in London, and at the age of 21, he started pursuing a very different career. Everyone goes to university for a career. Maharaj also went to university, but he found a different.
Retired before I began.
And after graduating from UCL, he decided to dedicate his whole life to serve Krishna and Prabhupada. He joined in Manor, and now it's 2.5 decades. He's still continuing. Recently, he's taken sannyas in 2022, and especially after his sannyas, he was studying earlier as well. He's studying a lot, and usually he doesn't come towards this part of the world, as he was saying earlier. He is usually USA, UK, Europe area. But now he has come here, and we have to make sure he keeps coming back. You want him to come back or no? Yes! You have to welcome nicely in the loudest voice. Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna! Krishna Krishna! Hare Hare! Hare bless us. Our Yatra Maharaj has started many yatras, have trained many people. He has started many programs in many countries. So we request him to please bless us, guide us, and keep coming back. Thank you so much, Shile. I'll give it to Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you everyone for coming, and I hope to keep coming back. But warning is, I may take some of your young people with me. Some of these guys with me. Sometimes people introduce us, became a monk at 21, took sannyas. But actually we look at many of you who have so many responsibilities, who have families, who have jobs, who have such busy and demanding lives, but you are still making time, serious time for Krishna. When we come to your homes are basically temples. And when we see your dedication and commitment, then we realize actually we took the easy way out. And actually maybe many of you are more advanced than us. We get the respect, we get the garlands. Maharaj means king of the Mahaprasad sometimes. Sydney Mahaprasad, big plates. And we get all the respect. And sometimes I feel a little embarrassed going around because I really feel, and I'm not just saying that, really feel that so many of you are doing so well. Of course, you may feel I have so far to go. I think every devotee feels like that. But it's glorious. Srila Prabhupada and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita gave us a way to be Krishna conscious wherever we are. Grihe Thako, Vane Thako, Sada Hari Bole Thako. You may live in the home or you may go to the forest, no worries. No worries. I'm starting to talk back in Australia. Keep saying no worries. It's really Australian, isn't it? No worries. It doesn't matter, Sada Hari Bole Thako, just chant Krishna's names. And immediately everything becomes beautiful. But perhaps you're living in the world and it's not as easy as it says or it feels like it should be. So we have some time this afternoon. I don't know if anyone has any questions you would like to ask, or would you like me to say something first, or do you have questions? I'm happy to go straight in. Does anyone have anything, or do you want me to start? I should start? Yes. Alright, so I'll start. Is it possible to get Gita? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 All right. Number between 1 and 18. 12. Very sweet chapter. It must be very sweet. Alright, yes. Number between 1 and 20. 1. Say those who choose high numbers are very confident, and those who choose low numbers are very humble. Alright, so let us read today from chapter number 12, text number 1. So this is a very beautiful chapter. This is all about devotional service. This is actually the shortest chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. It's only 20 verses long, but in this chapter, Krishna explains how the devotee conquers him. See, Krishna means the all-attractive one. But Krishna also means he who is attracted by devotional service. So therefore, when one has love, when one has devotion, then actually they conquer Krishna. You can see that with young children sometimes. They conquer their parents. I've seen my father. He's like, he wants to be angry. Not my father, my brother. I've seen him. He wants to be angry at his child, but he said, "Papa, Papa." It's so sweet that he just disarms him. So it's like that. When one has purity of heart, then Krishna is immediately attracted. And in these verses, in the final verses of this chapter, Krishna will continuously say, Same yukta tamo mata. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. And so this chapter is all about devotional service. And so in the very first text, the chapter starts with a question by Arjuna. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam pariyupashate ye chapyaksharam apyaktam tesham ye ke yoga vittama. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect? Those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? But what Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service is the highest. If one and all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must take to devotional service. The purport is much longer, but I'll just stop here. So, Krishna manifests himself in different ways, and broadly Krishna manifests himself in a personal way and an impersonal way. It's said that 3 people once went to a train station to understand what is a train. So they stood at the platform, and in the distance there was smoke, light and sound, and one of them said, I know what a train is, it's smoke, light and sound, and he left. The other 2 waited, and then the train came in, and the other person said, I know what is a train, it's smoke, light and sound, and there are carriages, and he left. And the third one stayed even longer, and he saw all the people coming out, and he said, I know what a train is, it's smoke, light, sound, carriages, and inside are people, and they're going from one place to another. All 3 understood something about the train, but they had different amounts of knowledge. The first person is like the individual who has understood God, but only in the impersonal way. God is an energy, God is a light, God is universal consciousness. I am God. Aham Brahmasmi. So there is this school of thought. The second person is like a person who knows Brahman and Paramatma. Krishna is also within our heart. Krishna is accompanying us. Krishna is the eternal CCTV, watching everything. When you think you're alone, Big Brother is watching. So Paramatma is also there. And then beyond that, Krishna, the person who waited the longest, understood, yes, Krishna is light, he's energy, and he's also with us in the heart, but Krishna is a person. And therefore Arjuna says, who is the most advanced? Who is the most intimately yoga viddama? Who is the most connected? And now Krishna will explain that those who relate to him in a very personal way. To relate to Krishna in a personal way doesn't just mean to understand that Krishna is Bhagavan, but it means to treat Krishna as a person. Once I saw one little boy, he went up to the altar and just very innocent. Morning, how are you? He's just like speaking to Krishna. And I thought, wow, that's so beautiful, so innocent, so pure. When one becomes that natural in their interaction with Krishna, then actually one is developing love. So therefore, right now, although we understand Krishna to be a person, actually we interact with Krishna in a very impersonal way. Sometimes we're looking straight at the deity, but we're looking straight through the deity, and we have a million things on our mind that we're more focused on. I remember the first time I went to one of these car washes, where the people actually wash your car. So I went, and it was so strange because the person was on the windscreen and he was like looking right at you. But he was actually just looking at the windscreen and focusing on his job. It was such a strange experience that they're kind of like looking right at you, but they're completely oblivious to you. And sometimes it's like that with Krishna, that we're trying to connect with Krishna in a very personal way, but actually we're very impersonal with Krishna. So in spiritual life, what we're trying to do gradually, is we're trying to do all of our devotional activities, but do them in a much more personal, a much more attentive, a much more affectionate way. Because what does Krishna need? He needs nothing, but he relishes our love, our sincerity, our intent of purity. And therefore, Bhavagrahi Janardana, isn't it? Krishna is not so interested in the externals. This line comes from an ancient verse. Murko vadati Vishnaya, dhiro vadati Vishnave, ubayor tu samam punyam, bhavagrahi janardana. That's where this line comes from. In this verse is mentioned, Murko vadati Vishnaya. If one doesn't know Sanskrit, then when they want to embellish Vishnu, then they will say Vishnaya, but this is incorrect. Dhiro vadati Vishnave. The dhiro, the intelligent person, knows the actual grammar is Vishnave. But in this verse it's mentioned, Ubayor tu samam punyam. They get the same benefit if they do it with love. Because Bhavagrahi Janardana, Krishna is not so much interested in what you give, but he's very much interested in the purity and the intention that you have within your heart. And so we chant, but now we have to chant with real presence. We have to try to not just move our lips, but we have to try to focus our mind. And not just focus our mind, but we have to actually try to cry from the heart. His Holiness Govinda Maharaj often said, we are not building temples, we are building crying houses, where people can learn the art of how to cry for Krishna. See, everyone in this world will cry. There is the cry of the samsarika, who is crying for the things of this world. Relationship breakup, career crisis, India lost the World Cup. Crying for the things of this world, it dominates our consciousness. And internally we're frustrated, internally we're disappointed, internally our life seems to be falling apart. One Vaishnava poet, he says, if you gathered up all the tears that the conditioned soul has shed for all the things of this material world, it would be enough to fill oceans. So one cry is the cry of the samsarika. But then there is the cry of the sadhaka, the sincere devotee who's trying to cry for Krishna. And then there is the cry of the siddha, the one who is in the spiritual world with Krishna and who is crying out of love. So everyone in this world will cry, but it depends what do you want to cry for. Therefore, our teachers say we're trying to learn the art of how to cry for Krishna. We have to learn the art, not just dry rounds, but to chant with feeling, isn't it? Like now I'm traveling on many flights, so I always try to get the emergency seat. What to do when you're 6'5" So normally I got a good record now in getting the emergency seats on flights. So once I was on a flight, Egypt Air to Cairo. So I got on the flight, I got the emergency seat, and it was brilliant. Nobody was around me. I was like, this is Vaikuntha. Brilliant. I was flying to Cairo, no worries. And then, right when the door closed and all these people came in, and there's one problem with emergency seats. That's where the babies hang out. And today there was a baby, and the baby was in full form. It's loud, no need for amplification. Crying like anything. This is going to be a long flight. And then I remember Prabhupada said, we have to cry for Krishna like the child cries for the mother. So then I put my hand in my bead bag, and every time the child cried, Hare Krishna. So I tried to internalize the cry. It was very, I chanted some very good rounds actually on that flight. It was very powerful. And then at the end of the flight, I made a prayer to Krishna. I said, Krishna, may the cries of samsarika, the cries for all the material things, may they become like the cry of the child for the mother. And Krishna, may I one day be able to cry for you in pure love in the spiritual world. Bhakti is all about feeling. It's not about externals. So somehow we have to bring this feeling in our relationship with Krishna. Then the relationship becomes very real. You see, if we are mechanical with Krishna, if we are impersonal with Krishna, if we treat Krishna as a stone, then Krishna will also not force himself into our life. Therefore, it's very beautiful when you go to Vrindavan today and you see how devotees worship their deities. Once we were traveling in Barshana, and this very old person came and said, please, come and see Thakurji, come, very excited. So, okay, yes, we will come. So we went into their home, and in this corner, there was a beautiful altar. And so, with great joy, he opened the curtains, and there was Radha and Krishna, very beautiful. And so we asked, what is the history? He said, yes, these are the deities of my parents. And then later on we were speaking to someone else, and they told us the story that this person, when they were 7, their parents, his parents died, both of them. And he said, I was 7, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know where to go. But I knew that my mother and father, they worshipped Radha and Krishna. So I knew, I don't know what else to do in life, but I knew I had to do this. This was their life and soul. So he said, at the age of 7, I began worshipping Radha and Krishna. And then I just carried on, and on, and on, and on. And that person was over 80 now. And for the last 73 or 74 years, their daily life was and is to worship Radha and Krishna for 8, 10, 12 hours every day, dressing them, feeding them, singing for them, decorating them. And he said, Krishna speaks to me. And I thought, if you treat Krishna like that, of course Krishna will speak to you. But if we are impersonal, if we do it ritualistically, mechanically, then we won't actually experience the true reality of Krishna consciousness. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that the Yoga Vittama, the one who's most intimately connected with me, is the one who worships me in the personal form. But not just one who worships me in the personal form, but one who worships me in a personal way. And therefore all the final verses of this chapter, Krishna will outline when one has this kind of devotion, what kind of character they have. They're so advanced, they're so evolved. This is ultimately what we're trying to become. And so, devotional service, Prabhupada said, is so simple, you may just miss it. It's not about learning thousands of shlokas. It's not about becoming a famous person who has titles and who is distinguished. It's not about achieving so many things in an institution. It's about actually having some love for Krishna. And every day we have to remind ourselves of that, because it's so easy to get diverted into so many other things. So yes, this is our prayer. Kaviraj Goswami says, Prema dhana vinavyartha daridra jivan dasa kori vetan more deha prema dhan. He says, Prema vinavyartha. If I don't have prema, if I don't have love in my heart, daridra jivan, then I must be considered a poor soul. Dasa kori, therefore Krishna, make me your servant. Vetana more, and I only ask for one salary. Deha prema dhan, please give me some love. That's what we pray for. One day may I have some love for Krishna. Then our life will be successful. Hare Krishna. Alright, you pick the verse. I shared a few thoughts. Would you like to ask any questions, or would you like me to explain more about anything? Anyone out there? Yes?
Explaining about the personal feature of Krishna and serving in a very personal way. Although the ways may be seemingly imperfect, we have to have that feeling of Krishna. So what's the best ingredient you suggest to get that bhav, emotion for Krishna, not looking at the external so much?
So we're talking about developing this love for Krishna. And how do we do that? What's the most important ingredient to developing that very personal interaction with Krishna? Therefore, we've been given two very, very valuable things by our acharyas, Hari Kirtan and Hari Katha. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says Hari Katha is the Swarup Shakti of Hari Kirtan. Just like Srimati Radharani is the Swarup Shakti of Krishna. And we never worship Krishna without Srimati Radharani. So in the same way, we do Hari Kirtan, but we always accompany it with Hari Katha. And when we hear about Krishna, when we remember what is Krishna doing in Vrindavan, who are Krishna's friends, when we go to Vrindavan, when we see those places, when we associate with those who are absorbed in these pastimes, then we become more attractive. And then what happens is when we chant with more consciousness of who we're chanting to. So therefore, when we hear about Krishna, that means to hear the holy name, but to hear very seriously about Krishna as a person. And ideally to hear from the mouth of someone who is relishing their relationship with Krishna. That sound vibration which comes from the mouth of a saintly person is very, very purifying. Tatodu sangamutsrija sadhu satse tabuddhiman shanta evasya chinnanti manovyat sangamukti. He said that the words of a saintly person are razor sharp. Manovyasanga mukti bi, and they can sever your attachment for the material world and immediately bring you in contact with Krishna. Therefore, we try to search out saintly people and hear from them. And sadhus come in all shapes, forms and sizes. It's not just those in saffron who are swamis. It could be anyone. Sadhu reva samantavya samyavya vasito hisa. When you come across someone who is dedicated to Krishna, that person is saintly, and that person has some bhav. And by hearing from them, you can catch some of their bhav. So this is what we have to do. We have to hear. Of course, it's not so easy to just stop, sit, and listen. Once I gave a class and someone said, "Brilliant class." I said, "What did you like?" He said, "You ended on time." Because once we get in front of a mic, these guys go on and 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 on. It's so hard to concentrate because our mind is in so many places, circumambulating the universe, thinking about all the different things that are going on in life. Do not disturb, already disturbed. So therefore, there's a verse actually in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Pranaya alpayusha sabhya kalavasmin yugejana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya yupaduta. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives a commentary on this. He says it's very difficult in Kali Yuga for people to practice spiritual life because alpa ayusha, they have a short life, not much time. Here today, gone tomorrow. But he said, even if one has a long life, the next problem is manda, lazy. Prabhu, I don't have any time. All of a sudden they have a day free. No taste, it's lazy. But then he says the next problem is even if you make time, you're not lazy. The next problem you have is sumandamati, no intelligence. You have time, you're not lazy, you try to read Shastra, but we don't have the intelligence to figure it out, what it's all about. Can't make head or tail. But then he says the next problem is, if you make time, you're not lazy, and you don't have intelligence, but you have the intelligence to go to someone and hear from them, the next problem is manda bhagya. You're unfortunate because you go and listen from the wrong person, bogi yogi. But then he says, the next problem is, if you make time, you're not lazy, you're less intelligent, but you're intelligent enough to go to a person, and you go to the right person. When you're sitting in front of that person to listen, upadruta, simply disturbed. Then we can't concentrate. And therefore, Chakravarti Thakur says, in Kali Yuga, spiritual life, difficult. So it takes some sobriety to just sit down in one place and hear about Krishna. It takes a lot of discipline. You have to be like a fish. You know, fish. Fish means even when they're underwater, their eyes never blink. For most, their eyes never open in the first place. So, if one becomes a good listener, isn't it? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I've noted him, talking about Prabhupada. I've noted him. He listens very well. Can you sit down? Just listen. Just listen. Yes. Nothing else. Now, just give your ears to hearing about Krishna. If one learns that art, then they can make advancement very, very quickly, because everything is happening through the ears. So that's what we have to try to do. Then one gets attraction. Okay. Yes, Guru?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In response to Arjuna's question at the level of 12.1, the verse that you beautifully explained, yes, at the level of 12.2, Krishna does say that, the personalists are better. Those who worship my personal form are better. He answered Arjuna's question. But he doesn't really condemn the impersonalist, because in the next two verses, 12.3 and 4, he very clearly states that they also attain me eventually. Eventually. And the eventually part he explains in the next verse, 12.5, where he says it's a very difficult part. So Krishna doesn't really condemn the impersonalist. He does condemn the Mayavadis, not the Brahmavadis. He condemns the Mayavadis, but not the Brahmavadis. So he doesn't really condemn the impersonalist very severely. He says that they also attain it. Yes, the path is difficult. But sometimes in our congregation, Maharaj, we tend to use very reproachful term for the impersonalists, even if they are not Mayavadis, just because maybe they have been brought up in a culture where people were more inclined towards the impersonalism part. But Krishna doesn't do that, isn't it? So I just wanted to understand from you.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for raising that. So just to clarify for everyone, when we say impersonalist, there are two types of impersonalists. One type of impersonalist is known as a Mayavadi. This is condemned. Because even Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadi. Because the Mayavadi, what is their philosophy? Everything is Maya, including Krishna. They make Krishna just a material person. And they say Krishna is nothing supreme, nothing special, just like one of us, just an illusion. So that philosophy is condemned. But then another type of impersonalist is known as a Brahmavadi. And a Brahmavadi basically means that someone who prefers to worship impersonal, or someone who doesn't know about anything beyond the impersonal. But they don't bring Bhagavan down to the level of Maya. So, for the Brahmavadis, there is an opportunity for progression. And the example in the Bhagavatam is the Kumaras. Because what did they smell? The Tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of Krishna. So that was enough, and it turned their mind. Another example is Sukadev Goswami, who was in the beginning in a Brahmavadi conception, but then later on became very much rooted in Bhagavatam. So yes, so generally yes, this we tend to simplify everything and just say practice this. But yes, you're right. So yes, it's a path. It's there. Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratistaham. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. And so it's part of Krishna's manifestation. But Krishna says, Klesho dikadaras-tesham avyakta shakta chetasham avyakta hi Gatir Dukam Dehavatera. It's very difficult because it's dry. Isn't it? Impersonalism is dry. We are hearing about Krishna and Madhumangal and Sudama and Vrindavan, and still we're going to sleep. Now you try and study Upanishads and see how far you get. It's very hard, very dry. There's no rasa. And therefore, impersonalism is practically impossible in this age because we don't have that kind of caliber. And therefore, sometimes we condemn it because even though it's practically a part, it's practically impossible for anyone in this age to do it because we don't have that capacity. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Maharaj, I must say, this post-COVID era, there's a lot of emphasis that is put on mental health, right? And we touched upon it before yesterday's class, artificial intelligence, and then things like that come into play. The human interaction becomes less and less. Our relationships are not as deep as they were before, right? Even in the corporate world, there's a lot of emphasis on this, and I see in ISKCON, I see Mataji is going through phases in life, midlife crisis, postnatal, perimenopausal, whatever, right? There's a lot of, and now in this era, because these issues are surfacing, the taboo attached to it is also kind of going away, right? So what is it that as devotees we can do, be it corporate world, be it our personal lives, to deal with these issues? Of course, there is a medical intervention at some stage that is needed, but from a spiritual perspective, from being Krishna conscious, how could we deal with, what is your suggestion?
Many things are required, but I just maybe focus on one thing, that basically our lives have become very, very artificial. It's a very, very artificial lifestyle. It's like we take things to be just normal, but if you would go back in time and 100 years ago someone would visualize what we're doing now, they'd be like, these guys are crazy. I'll give you an example, like say for example, before we used to ride on a bike and go from one place to another. Then we got advanced and we had cars, so now we zoom around the city. And what we do is we zoom around the city all day, working hard, and after a hard day's work, of getting so tired and doing everything, then what do? We pay $30 a month for a gym membership. And then we go in a room and we sit on a bike at the end of a tiring day and we start pedaling like anything, sweating, and going absolutely nowhere. And we think, this is normal, you've got to look after your health after all. It's absolutely strange. We're living such an artificial lifestyle. So therefore, Prabhupada said, simple living, but people are basically simply living, hardly thinking. And so, but you may say, yeah, but what are we going to do now? We're living in this world, we can't just automatically just become like farmers or something now, But at least as much as possible, we should link more with a very, very natural way of life. Eat the right foods, rise at the right time of the day. See? If we never had electricity, then when it got dark, people would actually go to sleep. And then when the sun would rise, you wouldn't need an alarm clock because it's like the sun is up. This is the time when we can do stuff. Let's get up. The amazing thing is now we have electricity, we sleep through the sunlight, and then we're awake at night. So There are the trends of the material world, and then there's the trends of material nature. And if one's wise, instead of aligning myself with the trends of the world, what I'll do is I'll align myself with the trends of material nature. And what does it mean to align yourself with the trends of material nature? To live in sattva. Sattvam vishuddham vasudeva shaktitam. Because by living in sattva, the mode of goodness, then one actually mitigates so many problems. If you live in sattva, your health will improve, physical and emotional. If you live in sattva, your character will improve. If you live in sattva, your relationships will improve. If you live in sattva, your achievement will expand. Everything expands from sattva. But what did Srila Prabhupada say? Rajastama guna era sabhayaya chan vasudeva katha ruchi nahise prashan. Prabhupada arrived in America, and in his poem he said, most of the population here is absorbed in the material modes of passion and ignorance. So if you live in passion and ignorance, don't be surprised if you get mental health problems. That's what it is. It's a lifestyle which is rooted in passion and ignorance. We have taller buildings but shorter tempers. We have wider highways but narrower minds. We have more degrees but less sense. We've conquered outer space but we're struggling with inner space. We have more degrees, less sense. We've multiplied our possessions, reduced our values. We lose our health to get wealth, and then we spend the wealth to try and get it back. These are the paradoxes of our times. So yes, you can do medication and you can do all kinds of therapies and different things, and sometimes it gets to that point where you can't avoid it, but the real thing is we have to live a natural lifestyle. Alright?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, like when a person is at a neophyte stage, a sadhaka, and is worshipping the Lord in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, with awe and reverence, and then we hear about the sweet pastimes of the Lord, Braja Krishna. So how does one make transition from that awe and reverence to, the sweet love for Krishna? And I suppose that's a natural transition, but can that be fast-tracked?
So Rupa Goswami explains that we are going through a progression. First sadhana bhakti, then bhava bhakti, then prema bhakti. We're continuing to hear about Krishna, and when there is sufficient purification, then naturally bhav will begin to manifest within our heart. You won't have to force it. Right? Like if you ask a 7-year-old boy, he hates girls. Fast forward 10 years and see what happens. You don't need to teach them certain things. When the time is right, it's just, it all comes up in the mind. You guys don't listen to all this stuff. Right? It just comes. So rag is like that. Bhav is like that. You can't force it. But when there's sufficient purification, then what will happen is you will begin to be drawn towards Krishna. You will be drawn towards devotional service, not because you should do it, not because you have to do it, not because you made a vow to do it, but because I just have to do this, because Krishna is irresistible. So bhav comes with time. So we have to hear about Krishna. When we say we worship the deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, it just means that it's not that we necessarily see them as Lakshmi Narayan, but it means we're worshipping with that attention to punctuality, to cleanliness, to Vedi, to rules. But we can still see Krishna. But it means we do it in a respectful way because we don't have that spontaneous love right now. But eventually when that spontaneous love comes, then Krishna relishes that more. Krishna relishes the spontaneous love of the gopis more than he relishes the prayers of the stutis of the personified Vedas. Because this one comes from a deep sense of longing, desperation, love. So yes, one day Bhav will come. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and we chant some good rounds and we think, yes, Bhav, I'm there. How do you know? How do you know you have Bhav? Because Swami explains. Shantir avyartha kalotvam viraktir manashunyata ashabanda samutkantha namakane sadaruchi Shaktistar gunakhyane pritistar vashatishtale ityadayo nubhavasyo jata bhavan kure jane. How do you know you're in Bhav? Just in case you wake up and you think, Bhav is coming. How do you know? Number one, Shantir. An absolute ability to forgive. If we look at anyone in the room and we have any negativity, we have any grudge, we have any sense of enmity towards someone, sorry, keep going. Forgiveness. Another symptom of Bhav, avyartha kalatvam, can't bear to waste one moment of time. Prabhupada once said, whenever I go to sleep, I think now I'm simply wasting time. Viraktir, an incredible detachment. Someone in Bhav, there's just nothing of the world that attracts them anymore. Nothing holds any intrigue anymore. Manashunyata, complete humility. Completely devoid of pride. Wow. Who can say that? Once I was in the temple and we were doing Trilaya piece of teaching, so we bowed down and chanted the verse, and then as I got up, someone accidentally touched me. I said, hey! Clearly saying the verse, but no pride, no humility in the heart. So like this, many symptoms are there. Manashunyata, Ashabanda, great hope, Samutkanta, intense eagerness, Ashaktistar Gunakyane, addiction to talking about Krishna. Once you start talking about Krishna, you can't stop. There's too much to say. Too much to say. Pritistad Vasati Stale, a great desire to live in Vrindavan. People have the t-shirt, I lost my heart. So like that, these are the external symptoms of Bhav. So the way Srila Prabhupada explains it is that when you begin to see these things coming about more and more, these are positive signs, encouraging signs. We must see that we're able to forgive more. Why do we hold on to so much enmity towards others, bitterness? The goal of life is not to remember all the terrible things that someone has done to you. The goal of life is to remember all the beautiful things that Krishna is doing to you every day. But while our mind is hijacked by that negativity towards someone, we can't remember Krishna. So we should see, I'm becoming more forgiving. I'm becoming more naturally utilizing of my time. I'm becoming more detached. Nowadays you walk past McDonald's and you're kind of like, Hare Krishna. No taste anymore. And we should be becoming humble. There's say in the first 20 years of your life, you're very concerned what people think about you. In the second 20 years of your life, you don't care what people think about you. And later on, when you become humble, you realize nobody was thinking about you anyway. It's like we're so overrated in our conception of ourselves. Isn't it? Humble person, who am I? Very small. So like that, gradually, these are the signs we should be looking for. These are sometimes more accurate signs rather than our emotional. Because our emotions are always going up and down, up and down, up and down. But these things are more steady ways to understand if we're actually advancing towards Bhagavad. Alright. I don't know how much time we have. Okay. Yes.
Thanks for coming to Australia and giving your divine association and beautiful class. My question is from your lecture, daily habits, 5 good things. And the second thing is praying. If you can share some of the prayers from that lecture.
Some of my daily prayers.
Daily prayers. And I have a second question. How to transform ourselves when under adverse or challenging situations?
YouTube is dangerous because you can't just give a lecture and run, you know. Perils of social media. Yes, I was explaining that one of our daily habits should be to pray. So what I did is over the years I wrote a book of daily prayers, of different prayers that I very much resonate with and which when I say them I really feel like Krishna, this is what I really want. So you want me to say some of those prayers? Alright, let me think now. One of them, for example, one is by Queen Kunti. Vaime nanya vishaya matir madhupate satit ratin udvahatad atha gangevo madangati. So Kunti Maharani, she says, just as the Ganga flows towards the ocean without being impeded by anything, allow my rati, my attraction, to flow towards you without being diverted by anything else. So I like that imagery very much. Many times I went to India and I sat on the bank of the Ganga and just watched the Ganga just gushing. And it's a very, very graphic depiction that may our devotion become like that. No time to look left or right, just running towards Krishna. Radha. What does Radha mean? Different meanings, but one of them is Raga Dhavati. Rag means attachment, and Dhavati means to run. So one of the meanings of Radha or Radharani is she who is running after her object of attachment. One of my favorite pictures of Krishna is Krishna and the cowherd boys. You know, they're running on the, you know the one I'm talking about? With the cows and they're all running. So if you go to Vrindavan today, then by Keshigat, that part is known as the cowherd boys trail. So that picture is actually depicting this place in Vrindavan. So I love that because they're all running and they're all running with Krishna, running behind Krishna. So like that, when I recite this verse, it brings a lot of imagery to my mind of, very inspiring. So like that. There's another similar prayer to this one by Rupa Goswami. Yuvatinam yatha yuni yunam cha yuvato yatha mano bhiramate tadvan mano me ramatam tvai. Rupa Goswami says, just as the minds of young girls are attracted to young boys, and just as the minds of young boys are attracted to young girls, May my mind be as naturally, spontaneously, and intensely drawn towards you, Krishna. It's very beautiful. So yeah, we could go on all night, all afternoon, talking about these prayers. Find prayers that resonate with you deeply. Kaviraj Swami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you recite a verse and it's like rubbing sandalwood. As you recite the verse more and more, it's like rubbing sandalwood more and more, the fragrance becomes more and more strong and intense. So once you find verses which you very much resonate with, you can say them again and again, and your realization of them will go deeper and deeper. Therefore, we were given all these prayers. Alright. Thank you. Yes.
I was asking how do we focus our mind meditation with like chanting or like listening? We think of like other things, so how do we like connect to one and focus?
Okay. So when we're chanting, then our mind goes in so many places. What do you think of when you're chanting? Where does your mind go?
Like one goes in like, when will my chanting finish?
Oh! I just wanted to make sure I'm not the only one. You make me feel better now. So how do we make sure? First thing you have to do is try to chant in the morning. You have to try and chant early in the morning. What time do you normally chant?
Nowadays I've been a little
Bit down, just nowadays, right? Before that you were much better. Before that you were waking up in Mangalati, right? Kind of.
I do, but then I sleep after that.
So the first thing is try to do it in the morning, you see? Because the morning is there's nothing else to do in the morning. There's nothing on TV anyway. All the boring programs are on TV in the morning, right? You don't watch TV? Okay, there you did well. So the first thing is you have to try to chant in the morning. That's good. Okay? First point you can work on. Second point is try to chant with someone else. You can chant with your mom and dad. You know, make sure they're out of bed as well. You can be their alarm clock. So chant with someone. You can chant with Srila Prabhupada sometimes. Have you got a recording of Prabhupada chanting?
Oh no, but like you can get on.
Yeah, so you can get on YouTube. You can get everything on YouTube. So you just get Prabhupada chanting, and then you can keep Prabhupada slightly in the background. So when you're not so loud, but little bit, so then you're chanting with Srila Prabhupada. That's powerful. Then the third thing is that if you feel like your mind is going everywhere, then you can also walk and chant. Alright? So you can also open your eyes as well when you walk. Don't look everywhere. So you can walk also. Sometimes when we move our body, then the mind also becomes a little more peaceful. So you can try that one as well. Then what you can also do is before you start chanting, just read something for like 1 minute. Like something you like, something Krishna conscious. Then what happens is it's easier to remember Krishna while you're chanting. So like that, slowly, slowly. The mind is like a monkey. So the mind is jumping around everyone's mind, even Arjun's mind. It was like that. So everyone struggles. But with time, it will become more peaceful. Alright, give it a go. Let me know how it goes. Deal?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, in this, you were explaining about prema, no? Krishna prema. So the 9 stages of devotion from Shraddha to prema. Where does Sharanagati or surrendering process fall in?
So all of you are familiar, there's 9 stages of devotional service. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya Anatan Nivritti Shyat Tato Nishtha Ruchi Stata. This goes on. So where does surrender come? Actually, in one sense, surrender is from the very beginning. But what happens is in this progression from Shraddha to praying, the surrender is going from external to more and more internal. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna externally surrenders. Shishyasteham sadimam tvam papanam. Krishna, please instruct me, I'm ready to hear you. That's already Saranagati, because he's ready to hear. So therefore, Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu, when we are open to hearing the Vaishnavas, we're already surrendering. Because you're putting your opinions to one side. And now you're saying, I'm going to hear from someone who has a better opinion. That's already a surrender. But then later on, it's not long before the devotees, bhajana kriya, you have to do something now. Prabhu, you've been around long enough, you should chant. 1 round at least. You don't have to change your life. Yeah, right. So then what happens is you're surrendering now even deeper, because you're not just surrendering to a person, but you're surrendering to a process. But then later on what happens is the surrender goes even deeper, because when you get ruchi, when you get ashakti, when you get bhav, then what happens here is that you're surrendering to Krishna, because now you're tasting Krishna. Krishna is so beautiful. Being in contact with Krishna is so amazing. And then at prema, surrender or sharanagati is absolute, because there Ashrishava Bharadam Dinashtuma Madarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Vidadatu Lakmato Madprananakastu Sadevana Paraha. Because then we at prema, we say to Krishna, I love you, and it doesn't matter what you do to me. You may make me broken-hearted by not being before me, or you may embrace me, but you are my worshipable Lord eternally, whatever you may do. So at that moment, surrender is absolute, because one has no other motive other than Krishna's happiness. So like that, surrender goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Alright, I will surrender to the sign. I think we have come to the conclusion of today. Thank you everyone for coming on such short notice. Wonderful to spend the afternoon with you. And hoping to connect with Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Seva Vaishnava Sangha ki jai, Jayanatago Premanande.